There they are, in gold, Liverpool, the Premier League champions for the second time, their 20th title. Arsenal in second place. In the end, it was 10 points between the top two sides. Manchester City in third, Chelsea fourth, Newcastle fifth. Villa miss out on Champions League. They're in the Europa League. Nottingham Forest in the conference place. There could potentially, depending on what happens with Chelsea, be places further down, but we'll talk about that when we come to it. Meanwhile, down at the other end of the table, we've known for a few weeks now that the teams who are promoted from the Championship are the teams who will be going back to the Championship next season. Southampton, Ipswich and Leicester. Spurs, the Europa League winners, in 17th place in the table. Manchester United ended the season with a win, but it only takes them up to 15th in the table, and only that on goal difference above Wolves. Enzo Maresca was punchy yesterday on Chelsea's qualification for the Champions League. He had a message for, which we won't repeat, but he did have a message for the people who'd maybe suggested that Chelsea might not qualify for the Champions League and that would be a disastrous season for them. Yeah, well, it would have been. You know, when you're looking at the monies and the PSR situation that Chelsea find themselves in, and the fact that they're a club that's spent so much money, they have to be in it. You could see, like, people were sending me like memes and everything of Chelsea players going crazy that they've qualified in fourth, like it's a trophy, you know. Not saying that when Arsenal was celebrating. Everybody just left you the space to say that. Thank you, Kels. You lot know me so well. But why wouldn't they be that happy? Yeah. Chelsea need that. Yeah. They do need some experienced players, obviously, to go alongside that, because during that season, he did go through a spell where you did have to question what was going on with the tactics, with the players. Has he got the right players? Can they play to the system that he needed? Palmer's form, everything that was happening. For them to then get to the place where they now qualify, it changes everything for Chelsea.
But Wright, do you know who the biggest critics of Maresca are? The Chelsea fans. Yeah. Do you know who said in December that they weren't ready to compete at the top level?
Yeah,
he said Maresca.
I
thought
it was a mistake
last month that they didn't have enough experience in the squad and the team to be in this race for the top five. Maresca. It was Maresca. He is the one who has said all these things. And even now that they're in the top five, there are a lot of Chelsea fans that still aren't happy with his style of play. They're still not happy with the recruitment, the amount of money that they've spent, and they went into the final game without a recognised striker. It's all on the club, but he's kind of sending it outwards. But actually, I think he needs to look at himself. The messaging is all wrong.
Yeah, having said all of that, Chelsea might well be one or two experienced players away from having a really good season next season.
Yeah, and they're one game away from winning a European trophy and qualifying for the Champions League. I mean, it's incredible. I've never known a season whereby managers are so under pressure until that last game. One win and almost heroes. You look at Tottenham, you look at... I mean, I wouldn't say go as far as to say Manchester United, but if they had won a trophy into the Champions League, you could dress it up as success. Chelsea were teetering on the edge. Could it be a shocking season? If they're spending all that money and not getting into the top five would have been a disaster. It would have. Make no bones about it.
On many levels,
There were so many managers that were teetering on that last game, and of course some of them have come up smelling the roses.
What about one who teetered and didn't quite make it, and in fact is going to be playing in the Conference League next season, in Nuno Espirito Santo? How secure... I was reading a really interesting article on him, which is it's a very complicated decision to make because, again, it's not a style of football that people necessarily warm to that he plays, but it's been incredibly effective. It got them to the brink of Champions League qualification. They've fallen short. They're going to be in the Conference League, which is way beyond what their expectations would have been, having just been in a relegation battle last time around. And yet, do you keep the manager that takes them there? Is he the man to progress again next season? But it's not I don't think it's as straightforward as saying, well, he took them to sixth and therefore we stick with him. I don't know.
Well, I think the shock in your voice kind of sums up what we all think, because obviously he's done a terrific job. But Marinakis, he's a guy with a big portfolio of clubs, big ambitions. You know, he's managed to spirit Edu away from Arsenal. Goodness me, how you know, you've got to be thinking big if you've got the capability of doing that.
Now, Chelsea will be back in the Champions League next season after they beat Nottingham Forest 1-0 in a showdown for Europe at the City Ground. Enzo Maresca says his team proved their doubters wrong this season, with a Conference League final still to play on Wednesday.
I didn't have any doubt, to be honest, about the players. I said that the doubt was from outside. all the ones that they have the answer, or all the ones that they have the truth. They were saying that we are too young, we are not good enough.
Well, it was the youngest average age of a Premier League team throughout the season for Chelsea, so he's got a point there. Sue, how important was that for Enzo Maresca? I mean, it looked like pure relief from the Chelsea players and the staff at the end of the game.
Yeah, it did, because I think at one point in the season we were looking at Chelsea as title contenders. I know that Maresca came out and said, no, we're not quite ready for that. But yeah, I think with such a young side, like you say, I think the average age was it 24 or something like that, you're going to probably have those inconsistencies. And I think that's what we've seen throughout the season. You look at the amount of money that's been spent by Chelsea. They needed to get into the Champions League. And I think the positive is the young players, the recruitment that they've gone for, go and get the best young players around the world. You think that there's room for improvement, there's room for development. So this side, you would say, will only get better with these experiences. So yeah, you could see the delight that, you've gone from a team that looked like they're challenging for the title to a team that now has got Champions League football. So we've still said, even though they've spent so much money, they still need to strengthen in certain areas. So this, you would say, will give them an opportunity to do that.
Yeah, what sort of a marker is this then, Stephen? Does finishing in a Champions League spot in the top four for the first time in 3 seasons, does that show them financially in a footballing sense that they're back in the big time Chelsea?
Yeah, I think it does. I think it allows them to dip back into the market and probably go to that next tier of players that they perhaps want to sign. I think it allows people to look at, so often over the years we've looked at Chelsea within the Champions League and always thought they have a potential to win it. And now that they're back in it, I think they'll feel that they can compete in that with the squad that they've got. And probably the way that the season's gone, they'll have learned an awful lot throughout that season. But I just think if they want to do well in the Champions League and the Premier League next season, they are going to have to add a little bit more experience into that squad.
But they can attract that now, and they're fishing in a different pond than if the results had gone against them.
Yeah, 100%, and I think that's the big thing now is that there'll be players that they probably had in mind if they qualify for the Champions League, and if they didn't qualify for the Champions League, there was another pool of players that they would have gone in for. So now it allows them to dine at the top table.
Yeah, but this policy of youngsters is still there. I mean, it was Levi Colwill who got the goal yesterday. He, Trevor Chalobah, Reece James, Cole Palmer, Noni Madueke, all in that England squad, which is incredible, really, isn't it? There's other young talent in this Chelsea group as well. You could argue Tyreek George's goal against Fulham, perhaps the turning point that got them into the Champions League. So how high is the ceiling for them? They can carry on this.
Yeah, they can, and that was obviously, the way that they wanted to recruit. They wanted to bring in the best young players around and bring them in, develop them, and let them all develop together. So, yeah, you look at the potential and what Chelsea can become. It's brilliant, but I do agree with Stephen. I just feel, do they need to then just bring in some experience? So players that have got experience in Champions League football, experience in the Premier League, just to help those young players grow. Because we spoke about Cole Palmer, absolutely outstanding for a period of time. He then had a little dip in form. Is that where maybe you need that experienced player in and around him to I suppose, just help him and guide him through? So maybe that's another option, or will they stick with the recruitment that they had last year?
Yeah, an experienced player, not got anything on next season. Stephen, you can...
I know. Voice in the changing room.
Right, and of course they've got this Conference League final as well. I mean, we could debate forever and ever whether it's fair that Betis got to play Friday night. Chelsea had to play away at Forest 4 o'clock. But do they play the same team? Jackson will be back for the Conference League final, though.
Yeah, I think that's the hard thing with Maresca. He chops and changes, doesn't he, as who he thinks is who's going to be most suited to win the game. But I think Jackson does play. I think he changes the dynamic of the attack for Chelsea in the way that he stretches the back line. I know people will say, well, he's not as clinical, but I think he changes the way that their style of play ever so slightly, and it does allow more space for the likes of Cole Palmer to get on the ball.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very mature performance.
It was.
From Chelsea yesterday, very disciplined, especially defensively. Is this first season been a success for Maresca? And they've still got this Club World Cup, which if they were to go and win it, and there's some pretty good teams in it, but if they were to go and win it, that's another 100 million into the club coffers. So, I mean, this could be phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. You go and win the Europa Conference League, you finish in the Champions League spots, you go and then win that competition as well. I know that some fans have maybe been frustrated with the style of play and, you know, Maresca's patient build-up play, liking to play the ball out from the back. But if they're winning trophies, they're getting to the Champions League this year, then you look at next season, if they do bring in other players that they want to bring in to strengthen, they then start competing at the top end and challenging for titles, then I'm sure everybody at Chelsea Football Club will be happy, because it is about the development, isn't it? It is about making sure that these players, we speak about Caicedo, I think he's been a real standout for a lot of the season. He came in for a lot of money, a lot of pressure and expectation on him. I think this season we're actually seeing the best of him. Lavia, we always speak about him and keeping him fit and available. And Reece James as well, you speak about having, you know, an experienced player. He's one of the more experienced players, isn't he? When he's playing at right back, the quality that he can provide, whether it's going forward or from a defensive perspective, that leader in the dressing room, he's certainly one of them. So it is about developing these players to becoming that team that's going to challenge right at the top.
It's also important that we don't forget he's young in his managerial career, so he's still developing and learning on the job, really. And to learn at such a big club like Chelsea and that weight of expectation, and also as well, he knows how much the club has spent. They know he knows what's been spent on the squad, and there's almost you should be succeeding, you should be doing better. So for him to get Champions League football this year is a great achievement, but now it's where will he grow, how much will he grow, and how much will he improve as a manager and improve the team next year.
Okay, we're going to chat Forest in a second, but let's draw your attention to the bottom of your screen right now. Erik ten Hag signing that deal with Bayer Leverkusen.